Welcome back to Detroit's only nightly political talk show. This is The Pulse, and this November, voters will have a lot on their ballots. Among the many choices, Attorney General William Noakes, a Democrat, is running for the job, and he wants your vote. And we thank you for joining us here tonight on The Pulse.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Ruth.
You know,
Good to be here.
there's going to be democratic process will take place. No primary. You're going to have a nomination with the convention in the fall, and so you
Actually, we'll have an endorsement convention in April, on April 19th.
And so-
It just happens to be my mother's 92nd birthday.
Your mother's 92nd birthday. You're hoping for a little bit of that birthday block from mom, but of course it's going to take even more than that. You'll have to, of course, convince a lot of people that you're the guy for the job. I want to talk to you a bit about, you ran in 2018 for Attorney General.
That's correct.
And it didn't work out, obviously. What is it that happened that you decided, hey, you know what, I'm going to throw my hat back in the ring?
I think I'm much more mature now. I know exactly why I want to run, and I think I'm better prepared to run. In 2018, a friend of mine was also running, Pat Miles, and at a certain point, I thought that Pat would be a better candidate, so I threw my support to Pat. And unfortunately, he lost.
Why do you think it's so important? What are the things that you're seeing that are absent that you believe you can do?
Well, the first thing is most people don't see the office of Attorney General as being transformational. It can be transformational. It's not simply the nuts and bolts of the legal practice. And part of it is looking at what are all the situations that an Attorney General can have an influence on. We can have an influence on the environment. We can have an influence on homelessness. We can really have an influence far beyond what most lawyers or most attorneys general do. I know there's a big push for people to say, well, we're going to sue Trump. We're going to go after Trump. We're going to go after the Trump administration. But that should be a part of it, but not the entirety.
Well, we know right now that Democratic state attorneys general across the country have filed 77 lawsuits against President Trump. 43 of those have actually been pretty viable,
Yes.
and they've led to temporary restraining orders, they've led to pauses and some of the things. So wouldn't it be safe to say that the attorneys general of this country, whether you're Democrat or Republican, those are guardrails that are critical at a time when many people feel as though those guardrails are being rammed into?
The guardrails don't exist anymore.
You don't believe they exist?
I don't believe they exist. Unless we truly look at what the Constitution says, look at what the Bill of Rights says, and then look at what the people say. And today in Detroit, the people were letting the Trump administration know, we want ICE out. So it's a combination of those three.
But William, when we look at federal courts across this country and the number of Trump appointed, Bush appointed, Obama appointed, Biden appointed federal judges who have put a stop to some of the policies, and then we have attorneys general who have filed again 43 wins against an administration that they believe were pressing on those guardrails. How then do you say the guardrails don't work?
Well, what I'm saying is the guardrails, in a sense, don't exist because, one, the president has the Supreme Court, and many of those cases haven't worked their way up to the Supreme Court. So the question is, will those cases, as they work their way up to the Supreme Court of the United States, where there's a 6-3 majority of conservatives, will they stand? Temporary restraining orders are great. I've gotten temporary restraining orders before, but it ultimately comes down to what's the case and what case can you make and will it succeed?
I want to ask you one question about the powers of an attorney general. Right now, the state house, the legislature is working on a bill that would essentially say, you know what, attorneys general, Dana Nessel, in Michigan, you need to start going through the legislature and the governor to approve investigations that you want to do because it's costing taxpayers money. Do you believe that that's good legislation?
No, it's nonsense. It's simply a way of putting shackles on the Attorney General's office. And particularly when there was a majority, a Democratic majority in the House, there was no talk of that. Only now with Matt Hall and a Republican majority in the Michigan House is there talk of that. It's basically politics, raw knuckle politics, and it's nonsense.
Let's talk about something that does, in your mind, make sense. What is the one thing that's not being addressed by the Attorney General that you believe needs to be?
The biggest thing, and the biggest difference between Dana Nessel and me, is being able to go out into the community and communicate. Because you can file lawsuits, but ultimately what matters most is, do you have the support of the Michiganders? Do you have the support of the people here? Anytime you are looking at some major legal action, you really ought to know what support you have or don't have. Now, in terms of the issue, the biggest single issue right now out there is dealing with data centers. And the question of what are we going to do with data centers and how they impact people's electrical use. And it also talks about the influence potentially of DTE and consumers in terms of rate increases.
People feel like they don't have power with these data centers. They go to these meetings and scream on the top of the rooftops. At the end of the day, data centers get approved, so it'll be an upward challenge, yes?
Well, the first thing is you really ought to know who approves them.
And that's
It's
important.
the Michigan Public Service Commission.
It is indeed. William Noakes, we are out of time, but I want to say we'll continue our conversation when we have an opportunity to talk more to you. I want to thank you for joining us here tonight on The Pulse.
Well, thank you.
Great to
I'm
see
glad
you.
be